Let's get some more now on the Trump-Putin phone call, some analysis with Justin Bassi. He's Executive Director at ASPI, the Australian Strategic Policy Institute. Some progress, but no truce, no ceasefire in the short term. What do you make of the outcome of that phone call?
Exactly right, Kieran. Some progress, but it doesn't look on the face of it, or we know a few hours after the phone call, that there was really any serious progress towards a resolution here. Yes, we had some what appears to be good news in relation to a discussion of a temporary ceasefire in relation to targeting energy infrastructure or refineries, but that's not as simple as it sounds either, because it's not just Russia targeting Ukraine's energy infrastructure. Ukraine has been targeting Russia's oil refineries, which are important to them. So that's not just an area where we're seeing Putin make a concession. He's gaining something. What we see here, Kieran, is what people fear. There doesn't seem to be, on what we are being currently told, any evidence that Putin has been willing to give up anything himself. He's in fact made what are wholly unreasonable demands, that there be only peace on the basis that no weapons be provided to Ukraine, and that Russia has what Putin refers to as the root causes of the conflict addressed. Now, that means, in Putin's language, root causes means effectively Ukraine's independence. This has got to be absolutely unacceptable to Ukraine's supporters, which also means, Kieran, Australia, because we provide military assistance to Ukraine as well.
And so parallel to this, huge boost looming for the German defence, the Europeans moving to try and bolster their own capacity to support Ukraine. So in the event that the United States does withdraw that intelligence and military support, it's clear that the Germans and others want to step in.
There have been, ever since the Oval Office debacle, there have been a number of good signs from Europe. We had the meeting that Starmer hosted in London. We've had announcements by the incoming Chancellor, as you say, in Germany, Merz, of this huge boost to defence spending. We've had a number of European countries say that they will continue to support Ukraine. It is very, very good. We've seen Starmer, Prime Minister Starmer, and others say that they'd be willing to put troops on the ground in any type of peace arrangement. The issue, though, Kieran, we need more clarity on what all of this is. Because even Starmer, when he was talking about ensuring that the UK and Europe continue to support Ukraine, he said it still would rely on US backing. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean and won't mean US troops. But what it does mean, it requires any European peace force will require US backing, because otherwise a whole series of questions need to be asked. If there is peace, and if there is a European peace mission, what happens if Russia attacks Ukraine again? What would that European peace mission do? If they didn't have US backing, I think there's a whole series of questions that are currently unanswered.
And a massive risk inherent in all of that. Let's turn our attention to the Middle East. Israel's strikes on Hamas overnight. Where is this at? That fragile ceasefire is no more.
Kieran, I think this is a clear case again. Hamas started this war in October 2023. There was a ceasefire with an agreement that it would involve the release of hostages. What we've seen throughout the release is really a complete debacle in many respects. We've seen Hamas return dead bodies, some of whom, on reports, aren't even Israeli bodies. And in the last 3 weeks, we have seen not one hostage released. That is Hamas breaking the ceasefire. So that has to, again, be unacceptable. There really is no option here for Israel other than to enforce the ceasefire, which means if Hamas breaks it, there have to be repercussions. What it also shows, I think really important, Kieran, is it shows it's a lesson for the United States and for Europe that we can't just have an announcement of a ceasefire that we know relies on the trust of a terrorist organisation or a terrorist leader. And here, clearly, Hamas has broken the deal. So it's a lesson for Ukraine and Russia. We can't just make an announcement of a ceasefire. It has to be a ceasefire for the long term. If it's a ceasefire at any cost, Not Ukraine loses, the rest of us lose, Putin wins.
And it needs to be, as you say, deliverable and legitimate. The question is, if we circle back to where we began, many people, many observers in Australia and elsewhere don't believe you can trust Putin to be good to his word anyway.
Well, you can't. The answer is you can't. And really, Putin and Hamas share many things in common. All they know is force, and they can't be trusted. So we're in all of these negotiations, whether it's Israel and regional countries with Hamas, or the US, Ukraine, Europe, with Russia, you can't go in there into the negotiations on a basis of trust. It's the practicalities that matter here, and that's why in both these cases you need a ceasefire that actually is for the long term, and in particular for Ukraine, it means what are the security guarantees that we're going to provide Ukraine in return for a peace, and that means what role is the United States going to play.
Justin, Bassi, great to get your insights as always.
Thank you.
Talk to you soon.